Thank you so much for having us again. As Elle said, I'm Zareena Meyn. I'm the Executive Director of the nonprofit mRelief, and I'm joined by my colleague, Dize.
Hi, I'm Dize Hacioglu. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at mRelief.
Awesome. And we're here to talk to you about mRelief. So every year, $13 billion in food stamps go unclaimed, which means that 9 million people who are eligible are not enrolled for this life-saving benefit. And mRelief exists to change that. At mRelief, our mission is to transform access to social services for the inherent dignity of all. And with that, our vision is to ensure that anybody can access the social safety net without adding to the already stressful circumstance of poverty. So mRelief was founded in 2014 in response to a system failure, which meant that 10,000 families in the city of Chicago were applying for rental assistance, but only about 500 were even eligible for that benefit. So mRelief's founders, Rose and Genevieve, wanted to help out that 9,500 eligible families who would have spent a considerable amount of time applying for benefits that they weren't likely eligible for. And in doing so, they also wanted to liberate the capacity of the city workers so that they could focus on eligible families. So after they had just finished a coding boot camp, our founders built a basic pre-screening tool for 37 different social service programs so that families could check to see if they met the basic eligibility requirements before they committed to a really lengthy application process. And soon after that, mRelief focused on the SNAP program, and we focused on SNAP for several reasons. One, because SNAP was the highest visited program on our site. Also because SNAP has a tremendous participation gap, like I mentioned, and because it's an entitlement program, which means that the resource isn't limited like housing assistance. Anyone who is eligible should be able to receive the benefits. And since then, since 2014, we've designed and optimized end-to-end technology that simplifies the complex concepts of SNAP eligibility in order to empower people with the information that they need about whether they're likely eligible for SNAP benefits and to help them take the next step. So the process for someone who may be facing food insecurity could start with a Facebook ad. Someone logs into Facebook using their smartphone. They see an ad from mRelief that provides some information about SNAP. And when they click the ad, it takes them to mRelief's simple SNAP eligibility screener that they can complete in 3 minutes by answering 10 simple questions. Another route for users to check their eligibility is by text messaging, by texting food to 74544. And the reason we make our tools available both over text messaging and a mobile-friendly website is because we know that 97% of Americans own a cell phone, but 44% of households that make less than $30,000 a year don't have regular access to broadband internet at home. So text messaging is a really crucial point of access for addressing that digital divide that impacts a huge number of low-income Americans. So our SNAP eligibility screener is available in all 50 states and in 3 territories that participate in SNAP. And we partner with local food banks and state governments to provide an accessible SNAP application method as well. But today we'll be focusing on our eligibility screener, and I will hand it over to Dize to talk more about that.
Great, thanks, Zareena. So mRelief, like our fellow presenters, works within the intersection of social service eligibility and modern technology. We use eligibility rules and guidance from FNS and the USDA, pictured on the left, and turn them into code. Our screener is built using React and Rails, empowered by Twilio for SMS and Contentful for translations. Harnessing web and SMS technologies enables us to make tangible impact on our communities. So a Venn diagram is great and all, but what could this possibly look like under the hood? To answer that question, I'd like to take you all on a brief trip back to 2019. It's 2019, and our SNAP eligibility screener is live in 2 states, California and Illinois. We're itching to reach more people, so we take on the task of expanding our screener nationwide. Due to the flexibility given to states in determining specific eligibility criteria, we know we have to account for state-specific requirements. At the time, we decided to continue to follow the pattern that we had already developed when building California and Illinois and create a file for each state. Now, you can imagine the maintenance nightmare this caused. You can even see evidence of that in the commit messages. Any change we had to make to the screener, like reordering a question or adding a question, we had to make across all files individually. We were sacrificing maintainability and dryness for an architectural decision that wasn't serving us anymore. And we knew that there had to be a better way, and there was. We found it in designing a single state-agnostic file that served as a source of truth for all of our SNAP screeners. The way that we got to that solution was by discovering a pattern and defining the abstraction from that pattern. So when we were reviewing all of the eligibility criteria across all states and comparing them, we found that there were 3 main factors of eligibility that all of them had in common. The first one was gross income limit for household size. The second one was state asset limits. And the third was special eligibility categories like student status and citizenship status. And I'd like to show you all what this abstraction looks like in practice. Above, we have a snippet of code that informs the questions we display to users to determine household size. These questions are shared across all states, and any change to one of these objects will be reflected everywhere. So for example, if we change the household size questions type from a radio button to an input, the display of it will change for all screeners. And this structure has allowed us to minimize repetition in code between states, but still allows for flexibility to accommodate differences. Now we are able to implement these differences modularly. So the code snippets above show how we delegate the responsibility of state-specific logic to a couple of easily understood plug-and-play methods. In turn, we're able to use those modular methods in both our web screener and our SMS screener. Here you see a reference to the income limit, $2,904, as defined by the income cutoff method from the previous slide. And next, you see the asset limit, $3,750, as defined by the asset cutoff method from the slide before. Now I want to touch a bit on our efficacy and our impact. To date, we've connected over 2.7 million individuals to SNAP benefits, unlocking over $1 billion in benefits. Once they've enrolled, a household typically receives an average of $688 per month to spend on groceries. Feedback from our users really energizes the work that we do. So I wanted to share a quick quote from one of our users in Florida, who said, "Now I can set up my budget for food and transportation more efficiently due to the fact that I now have the opportunity to have even more food in my life than before. Because of mRelief, I feel more independent and responsible for myself." Thank you so much. We're happy to answer any questions now.
Wow, ladies, thank you so much for that incredible presentation. I am so inspired by all of the incredible work that you are doing at mRelief. Reminder to people in the audience to please raise your hand if possible to ask questions. But I have a question in the meantime, which is that I was looking at the questions that you ask in the screener, and having worked with benefit recipients in the past, I know that a lot of times the way that those questions are phrased and worded is so key to their ability to understand what is being asked of them and to be able to answer questions accurately so that they can receive the benefits that they're eligible for. Can you talk a little bit about what that process looked like? You know, how did you test different language and whatnot to figure out the best way to ask those questions, especially knowing that you were going to be asking it over text, so you didn't have the benefit of that sort of human connection to communicate those questions?
One thing that I can speak to is the way that we ask the questions in terms of the like multiple choice versus entering like a form field sort of input, and how we saw that affect conversion rates. We found that it was much easier for people to be able to identify what range of income they fall into rather than having to specify the exact income that they make a month. And we still found that that was accurate enough, that guesstimation was accurate enough to give them correct results at the end of the eligibility screener.
Got it. Thank you. Mary Pat, you have your hand raised. You're up next.
All right, thank you so much. This is super exciting, and I love seeing that it's basically all over the country. And that leads to my question, which is, because of your presence pretty much everywhere, do you are you able to take kind of a meta look at it and compare and contrast availability across states? And I don't know if this would lead to policy decisions in individual states or whatever, but I'm guessing that you see differences in what how states set it up, and maybe have some suggestions about opportunities for states to make things more accessible, given that you have a broad-based view across the country in territories that maybe a lot of people don't see. Just wanted you to, if you could state some of your thoughts on that, please.
Yeah, I can take this one. I think one example of this happening is in Kentucky. We, and this was with our application process in Kentucky, a randomized controlled trial found that our application process was 30% more effective in having clients complete an application than the state's existing application. And after we were able to identify that improvement, we were able to work with the state of Kentucky, and I think it speaks to the process being mobile friendly was a really powerful difference between our application and the state's application, and could really advocate for creating a mobile friendly application, because we know so many people are accessing these applications from a mobile device and not from a desktop computer. But we definitely keep track of the data and trends across all of the states where we work, and hope to move forward policy changes as a result of that.
Thank you. Melanie Lavelle, you're up next.
Hi, I saw that I'm supposed to ask these questions instead of typing. I was just wondering how the COVID waivers, do they help or hurt on what you guys are doing? And are there any that are going to go away that might impact these families? Because I'm a little scared about all that.
Yeah, when COVID started, getting information out about COVID waivers was really top priority for us. And in general, we found that it was very helpful for clients. The examples of some of the COVID waivers were that people would get the full benefit amount regardless of their income. They also sometimes had the interview waived. Some document submission was sometimes not necessary. So it really lowered the barrier in a lot of ways that the status quo needed to change in the first place. So we saw a lot of really great benefits from the COVID waivers. And we were able to communicate that information to clients by actually scraping the USDA website and figuring out which states had which waivers and presenting that to our clients on the screener. And there are a lot of waivers have expired. One of the most impactful ones, the emergency allotments, which allowed people to get the full benefit amount. It's still going strong in some states, but other states have kind of pulled back on that, and we've already seen the negative consequences of that decrease in benefit amount per month.
Zareena and Dize, everybody here is obviously so impressed with the work that y'all have done to be able to increase SNAP accessibility for those who qualify. And so the question that I have for you is sort of what's next for mRelief? You know, are you guys just still working on trying to perfect the SNAP eligibility screener as much as it can be? Are you starting to turn your eyes towards Medicaid or WIC or TAN for any other public assistance benefits? As a former college access professional, I have to selfishly beg that you work with the Department of Education to reform the FAFSA. But what's next for you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we, it's something we consider on an annual basis, thinking about other benefits that we can try to incorporate into our simplified screener. We've really focused on SNAP for now with a focus on end-to-end SNAP enrollment. So after somebody finds out that they likely qualify for SNAP, we help them take the next step to apply using mRelief's also simplified mobile-friendly application. So our efforts, like I said, are focused on closing that participation gap for the SNAP program, but we do an annual audit of the other public benefits that are available and consider whether we can incorporate those seamlessly into our existing tech infrastructure.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges that you see associated with potentially incorporating other benefits into your simulator? I know that SNAP seems to have been a popular one so far today for a lot of the reasons that y'all mentioned that you chose to focus on SNAP. And so if you were to expand this into other public benefits, what are some of the challenges that you think you would face with that?
One of our research associate, actually, who I believe is on the call, shout out to Kara. She did a really great analysis of what it would mean to expand to other social services in terms of determining eligibility. And there's a lot of complexity that I think that we feel like focusing on SNAP to really perfect this process before we can move on to another, move on to helping clients apply for other benefits. Because I mean, as folks have already discussed, the wide array of complexity here. And it's been inspiring to hear how they've solved for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a question in the chat from Chanel, and she said, how do you transmit that information from your application to the state? Do you fill out a paper application or use the information to complete the state's online application?
So we do both, and it really depends on the state and the way that they, whether or not they have an online application and the accessibility of the online application. So if it is a state that has a pretty easily accessible online application, we do transmit that using the online application. But in certain states that don't have an online application at all, we do submit PDF applications by fax.